But I just want to take about 10 minutes, and I'm going to look at my clock again. I'm going to take about 10 minutes with dinosaurs because it's not the main topic I want to talk about. So let me take 10 minutes. I'm telling myself this because I'm psyching myself up for 10 minutes of a discussion with dinosaurs because for real, if any of you know me, I could talk for the next 14 hours about dinosaurs and not even take a pee break. So 10 minutes. This is our goal. All I want to do is shine some light in an area that has been very confusing in the Christian world. Most people that are Christians have either been told dinosaurs didn't exist at all and that they were a figment of imagination or satanic deception to make people think, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that's true. I think dinosaurs actually existed. But where I will take issue is that I absolutely do not believe by any stretch of the imagination, scientifically, that the Earth is billions of years old and that dinosaurs existed 65 million years before humans. I don't buy it. Now, we could debate it 50 different ways. We really could. I'm going to give you just one itty-bitty little tiny speck of this to help you understand it. And if you want me to talk about it more for 10 minutes, next time, I will be happy to do that, okay? My clock hasn't really started yet, has it? Anyway. So, I want you to hear it, though, so at least it gives you a spark that says there's more information that's out there, okay? And so what I want to first of all do, and I've got my little TV up here, I just want to go through a couple of things to help give you some perspective. One of the things you've been taught in science classrooms, by the way, I taught science for a couple of years, and it was actually in the time frame where I decided not to go to med school, so it was like, what in the world am I going to do now? So I could teach, and I taught for a couple of years, taught science, anatomy, physiology, biology, and microbiology. I was sick all the time when I taught microbiology because you're playing with germs all the time, and with teenagers, And so in teaching it, I was still trying to figure it out. I was there with, I know there's a creator, but I was still trying to figure out where it is. And I'll tell you these days, as I've been into this 20 years, I'm a full-bore creationist. And not just from a theological perspective, but from a scientific perspective. The answers are there that show that God created. And so science and God go right hand in hand. Why? Because He created everything. He created it. He created the laws of nature and physics and all that beautiful stuff. And so when you get into this topic, the main thrust you come from is the age of everything. Everything is super, super old. The philosophy, and there is a philosophy of science. The philosophy is if you give it enough time, anything can happen. This is the standard philosophy of scientists, no matter what discipline. If you give it enough time, anything can happen. So if that were true, and if I were debating my friend over here, and they said that, I would say, if that is a truth in every circumstance, it means we could do anything. Like we could put a bunch of monkeys in a room with, computers or typewriters, if you know what that is. Anyone know what a typewriter is in here? Okay, 4 of you. And eventually they would type out the unabridged dictionary. I mean, this is the kind of philosophy, but that is the conclusion you would draw. If you give it enough time, anything will happen. That's baloney. No one in the world will believe that's true in any way, shape, or form. Like if you put a pile of water here in a bucket, if you give it enough time, it will not become a banana split. There has to be energy added into the system, and purpose, and direction, and design, and all those things. Always, in everything, it works that way. And so when you look at the age question, which is where part of the dinosaur dilemma comes in, they love to point to all these things, like New Mexico's Unfinished Symphony. And so, has anyone ever been in a cave? We were just in one, so I included this. We just went to some of the caves over there up near Mountain View. And they're gorgeous there. And I was just waiting for the dude to go, it took 250 million years to create this little stalactite. I was just waiting. And Jennifer's like, calm down, it's okay. So I'm like, I'm going to rip him apart. I just can't wait. Just say it, I dare you. But this is what it is. The tiny drops of water over millions of years that filter through the rocks, and they pick up calcium and other things. Eventually they create these straws and stalactites and stalagmites from the bottom. And this is an amazing creation of time. The issue is, it's just not true. And so when you look forward, like the Lincoln Memorial, this is 1922 after the Lincoln Memorial was built. Obviously, they would say, and depending on who you're talking to, geologically, they would say it takes thousands of years to grow just a few inches. Well, the Lincoln Memorial has not been around for thousands of years, in case you didn't know. Or look at a more modern picture. So modern pipes, sewer pipes that have been put through there. Look at that. That is a real deal stalactite that was there for like 50 years. The truth is, it does not take hundreds or thousands of years. It takes decades, is all. And this is what you see all the way through. The things that they'll say take gajillions of years take decades or hundreds of years at the most. So for instance, if we were carbon dating, and this is one of the things I've talked about before, and I'm not going to get myself sidetracked, I promise myself. But when you talk about carbon dating, we have dated living snails to be like 3,200 years old. That's a problem for the dating methodology. Or lava flows using potassium argon method or uranium lead method. And the lava flow that you know is like from Mount St. Helens in the 80s, but it dates at 3 billion years. There is no way. So this is part of the problem with the system. They make major assumptions when it comes to dating methodologies and things like that are absolute bunk. They just have no truth whatsoever. The problem is they'll say things like this and no one knows how to counteract it and they accept it. Pastors do it all the time, too, when it comes to science. They'll go, well, science and God, we just got to keep them separate. Baloney. Science was created by God. We just need to know what the truth is. And that's how this works. Here's another example, a reel and a rock. And so we found a rock that had a modern fishing reel in it. But guess how old the rock dated? It dated at 300 million years old. When you began to do the radio dating on these things, where you're taking radioactive isotopes and you're measuring it out and to see how long things have been around. What you're really doing, by the way, like in carbon-14 dating, which only dates out a few thousand years, you're looking at a ratio between carbon-12 and carbon-14. And theoretically, over time, the ratio changes as they decay. Everybody's heard of decay when it comes to radioactivity. Well, part of that issue is you have to know what you started with in order to figure out the ratio. Of course, we don't know what you start with. So all the dating methods are flawed right from the beginning. But in essence, here's what it is that they found and if you can see, the rock has formed around the fishing reel. Everybody see the picture? But yet the rock dates at 300 million years old. But here's what's funny about that. So when this came up, after the geology department from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga saw it, the department chair said, I am the chairman of the department, and I say this does not exist. It's a figment of our imagination. Now, this should blow your mind, that this is what they would say. It's no different than the foreword of the 1971 edition of Darwin's Origin of Species. And the writer there, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, he said, when it comes to origins of life, there are only two possibilities. That of spontaneous generation, which is life from non-life, warm pond, living material. Spontaneous generation or supernatural creation. We've disproven spontaneous generation over 100 years ago. That leaves us only to one other conclusion, that of supernatural creation. We choose not to accept that on philosophical grounds. Therefore, we choose to believe the impossible, that life arose spontaneously by chance. And that's a quote. L. Harrison Matthews. The issue is this, my friends, is blind faith. So Christians always get the flack for faith and blind faith. No, the truth is scientists have blind faith when it comes to this. Another quick example now, we're getting to dinosaurs. The coelacanth. If you've ever studied biology, you'll see that they have this lobed-finned fish. It's in museums everywhere, in every science textbook, that talk about how this was the predecessor to four-footed organisms. These are the guys that crawled out of the water that became amphibians, because the model should have gone fish, amphibian, reptile, bird, mammal as the evolutionary model. Bogus. But they said this is the guy that really is the missing link between fish and amphibian. Here's a good picture of them that's drawn, obviously, in a science textbook with little fins, and they're walking on the ground. So coelacanths once thought to be the missing link, evolution of fish to amphibian. Guess what? We found them good and alive. And you can find them in the ocean. This is a modern diver swimming with this lobed-finned fish that should have been extinct 325 million years ago. And they're still around. And no, they haven't grown feet and walked on land and become frogs. Now, here's where the dinosaurs jump in. I got 2 minutes. All right, so Indian pictographs. So all I want to say about this is we have found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures in caves of dinosaurs. There's no question that these exist. If you can see it right here, this is a pictograph or a petroglyph drawn into rock that is dated back thousands of years to people that would have lived in this area. And they're drawing pictures very clearly of dinosaurs. This is the actual outline of the organism that looks like an Edmontosaurus. Now that's, of course, been drawn to fit that, but this is what the organism looked like. There is no organism that exists out here that looks like that. Anyone ever seen one of these at the zoo? No, this is a dinosaur, there's no question. We found dinosaur figurines, about 32,000 of them, in and around a specific town in Mexico. And these, now this, I will tell you, this is a source of a lot of debate in the scientific community and has been for a long time. And they'll go, no, this is fraudulent. These are people that created these in order to prove that there were people around that were creating little images of dinosaurs. If this is an ancient culture in Mexico 1,000 years ago, it's not like this big debate of did dinosaurs exist or not. It wasn't the question in there. And so what are they creating? They're creating images of things that they saw and dealt with. And so, now, again, if you go read about it, you'll find all kinds of people go, oh, it's fraud. They created these 32,000. There's absolutely no way they created 32,000 toys for children in and around an area that were buried as far down as 6 feet all the way up near the surface. And we find these all over the place that show that this is the kind of stuff that they saw. There's an example of one. There are other petroglyphs, again, pictures of dinosaurs that we know are incredibly old. And so then you get to the biblical side of it. So, does the Bible talk about dinosaurs? Now, again, I could take you for another hour journey on talking about some of these things. I'm just trying to give you a very small taste of it. And so the Bible talks about it. In Job, out the whirlwind said, behold now Behemoth, which I made he eats grass as an ox. So the question is, what is Behemoth? And so here's where it looks like in Scripture. So, oh, by the way, right here, the reason I put this up, some of your Bibles will talk about that it's an elephant or a hippopotamus. There is no way, when you read the description of Behemoth, that it's an elephant or hippopotamus. So, strengths in his loins, forces in the navel of his belly. There's a belly of an elephant. There's the belly of the hippo. There's the belly of a plesiosaur. That's a big belly. And so, he moves his tail like a cedar, okay? So here's talking about cedars in the Bible. That is not a cedar tree. That is not a cedar tree. That is a cedar tree. So again, not a cedar. Cedar. So, talks about Leviathan, and I don't have time for him. But the last one I want to show you, at least for tonight, and again, we can do another 10 minutes of dinosaurs next time if you want to. But one of the most amazing things, and where this has been coming up, is we found recently the largest Triceratops horn, frontal horn. And as they did research on it, they opened it up and they found spongy bone tissue. This says one thing: that is not millions of years old. It is hundreds or thousands of years old. There's no other explanation. This is not the first time we found this. We found those before. This is our actual photographs of a Tyrannosaurus rex femur bone. They found this dinosaur. It was very complete. The femur was literally too big to get in a helicopter, so they had to break the femur bone so they could get it back. And when they broke it open, they found spongy tissue. This is the spongy tissue. It has ligament remains, and this is spongy bone marrow and tissue. It says one thing, that it is not millions of years old. So what's the answer? Well, again, if I had another hour or so, I could show you that throughout history, people have talked about dinosaurs. It is in the historical record, and the reality is humans and dinosaurs coexisted. There's just no question in my mind. Now, how long have they been gone? I don't know. But But it's not like these pre-existed humans by millions of years. It's just not possible. The evidence shows that dinosaurs and humans coexisted at least for a time. The Bible talks about it. Rock paintings, petroglyphs talk about it. We find trilobites. Anyone ever seen a trilobite? A trilobite looks like a giant roly-poly, is what they basically look like. These, again, hundreds of millions of years should have been extinct long before humans with sandaled footprints, and yet we found squished trilobites with sandaled footprints in them. This doesn't happen if they existed gajillions of years before humans with sandals. There's absolutely no question whatsoever that dinosaurs coexisted with humans. There you go. Okay? So, no, you can't do it. So, there you go on dinosaurs. Let's see how I did. Oh, yeah, a little longer. So,